On March 15th, God says, "A sudden opportunity is coming tonight." This is not a casual statement. This is not a motivational phrase. This is a divine interruption. And if you ignore this, you will cry for what could have been yours. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. There are moments in life that pass quietly, and then there are moments that carry eternity inside them. Tonight is not ordinary. Tonight is not random. Tonight has been marked. There are dates that seem like any other day on the calendar, but in the spiritual realm, they are circled in red ink. March 15th is one of them. Something hath been aligning behind the scenes. Conversations you never heard. Doors you never saw moving. Hearts being prepared. Situations shifting silently. And now heaven speaks. The sudden opportunity is coming tonight. You must understand the weight of the word sudden. When God moves suddenly, it does not mean he just decided. It means he prepared it in secret and releases it without warning. What feels unexpected to you hath been carefully orchestrated by him. This opportunity is not luck. It is not coincidence. It is not human arrangement. It is divine timing. And divine timing does not wait for human comfort. That is why this message carries urgency. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. There is a reason a deadline is attached. There is a reason this is not vague. Heaven does not create panic, but it does establish timing. Midnight represents transition. It represents the closing of one day and the birth of another. At 11:59 p.m., you are standing at the edge of a threshold. One more minute, and something shifts. Many people lose blessings not because God withheld them, but because they hesitated. They analyzed. They delayed. They assumed there would be another chance. But opportunities from God are invitations, not obligations. He opens doors, but he does not force you to walk through them. And when a door is opened for a set time, ignoring it has consequences. This is why the warning is strong. If you ignore this, you will cry for what could have been yours. Not because God wanted you to suffer, but because regret is the natural harvest of missed obedience. The pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret echoes. Imagine realizing tomorrow that tonight held the key. Imagine discovering that what you prayed for was placed within reach, but you were distracted. That is why this message found you now. There is a divine tension in this moment. Some of you feel it in your spirit already. A restlessness, a stirring, an unusual awareness that something is about to shift. That is not anxiety. That is anticipation. When heaven prepares to release something, your spirit senses movement before your mind understands it. The enemy also knows this pattern. That is why distractions increase right before destiny moments. Fatigue becomes heavier. Doubt becomes louder. Small inconveniences become overwhelming. The goal is simple, to make you slow down at the very hour you should be alert. But tonight requires alertness. Tonight requires attention. Tonight requires immediate obedience. Why is this important? Because opportunities tied to divine timing often come disguised. They may not look grand. They may not look like fireworks. They may look like a message you feel prompted to respond to, a call you feel led to make, an instruction you feel pressed to follow, a decision you feel urged to finalize. And the window is narrow. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. The instruction is clear because hesitation is dangerous. There are blessings that expire, not because God changes his mind, but because seasons change. Just as fruit must be picked at the right time, so must opportunity be embraced at the right moment. March 15th is not about fear. It is about awareness. It is about recognizing that heaven moves in appointed times. Some of you have been praying for breakthrough. Some of you have been asking God for acceleration. Some of you have cried in private for a sign that He has not forgotten you. This is that sign. But signs require response. Revelation requires action. A sudden opportunity is coming tonight. The question is not whether it will come. The question is whether you will recognize it. The question is whether you will act before 11:59 p.m. There are people who will hear this and dismiss it. They will say, "I'll think about it later." They will scroll past. They will assume it applies to someone else. And tomorrow, they will feel a strange emptiness, not knowing that what passed them was once within reach. Do not let that be you. When God speaks with specificity, it is mercy. When He attaches a time, it is compassion. He is warning you because He desires you to possess what has your name on it. Tonight is a doorway. March 15th is a hinge in your story. The clock is not just ticking. It is witnessing. At 11:59 p.m., a chapter closes. Before that minute arrives, something must be open. Something must be responded to. Something must be embraced. This is your moment of awareness. This is your moment of clarity. This is the divine announcement. The sudden opportunity is coming tonight. And what you do before 11:59 p.m. will determine whether you step into celebration or wake up to regret. When God says a sudden opportunity is coming tonight, you must understand the sound of a sudden shift. In the spiritual realm, shifts do not always announce themselves with noise. Sometimes they move like wind before a storm, unseen but undeniable. Here is a moment when everything looks the same on the outside, yet everything has already changed on the inside. That is what tonight carries. A divine rearrangement. A supernatural adjustment. A quiet but powerful turning of the tide in your favor. A sudden opportunity does not begin when you see it. It begins when heaven releases it. Long before you feel it, long before you recognize it, God has already spoken your name into rooms you have never entered. He has already aligned details you could never manage on your own. The reason it feels sudden is because you were not present in the preparation. But heaven was. And now the release is near. There is a pattern to how God moves. Breakthroughs often arrive after silence. Elevation comes after endurance. Doors open after seasons of waiting. Many people think sudden means random, but in God's kingdom, sudden means appointed. It means the time has matured. It means the seed beneath the soil has finished its hidden process and is ready to break through the surface. Tonight is not an experiment. It is an unveiling. Some of you have felt delay pressing against you. You have questioned whether your prayers were heard. You have wondered if your efforts were wasted. But what if the silence was not rejection? What if it was preparation? A sudden opportunity means acceleration. It means what was moving slowly begins to move quickly. It means answers come faster than questions. It means connections form without struggle. It means clarity replaces confusion. But here is the warning. When shifts happen quickly, hesitation becomes costly. If you are spiritually asleep, you will miss what is spiritually active. That is why this message is urgent. Not to create fear, but to awaken readiness. There is a difference between wishing for change and being prepared for change. Tonight requires preparation. Tonight requires attentiveness. You may ask, how do I know this word is for me? Let me tell you something powerful. If this message stirs something inside you, if your heart beats a little faster, if you feel an unexplainable pull to listen carefully, that is not coincidence. That is confirmation. Divine messages carry resonance. They echo in the spirit of the one they are assigned to. And if you are hearing this right now, it is because heaven intended for you to hear it. This is the moment where faith becomes active, not passive, not theoretical, active. A sudden opportunity requires a sudden response. It may look like sending that message you have been delaying. It may look like checking something you felt prompted to review. It may look like opening what you have been hesitant to open. The instruction is clear. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. The shift is tied to obedience. And let me speak directly to you. Do not let comfort steal your calling. Do not let routine silence revelation. Many people pray for open doors, but when the door appears, they overthink it. They question it. They postpone it. And by the time they decide, the window has closed. Tonight is not the night to postpone. If this message is speaking to you, I want you to act in faith right now. Like this video as a declaration that you are ready for sudden shifts. Comment, "I receive my opportunity," as a prophetic statement of agreement. Share this message with someone who needs to wake up before midnight. And if you have not already, subscribe to this channel and become part of a community that refuses to miss divine timing. Your engagement is not just digital interaction. It is alignment. It is you saying, "I am attentive. I am alert. I am prepared." There is power in agreement. When you publicly declare belief, you strengthen your expectation. When you share light, you multiply impact. Tonight is about more than you. There are others standing on the same threshold, unaware that the clock is moving toward a defining moment. Be the voice that alerts them. The sound of a sudden shift is subtle but decisive. It is the click of a lock opening. It is the quiet turning of a key. It is the gentle but firm whisper that says, "Now." Do not wait for thunder. Do not wait for spectacle. Sometimes destiny knocks softly. Remember, March 15th is marked. The night is appointed. And before 11:59 p.m., something must be opened. Something must be answered. Something must be embraced. The shift has already begun in the unseen. The only question that remains is whether you will move with it. Right before breakthrough, distraction increases. This is a spiritual pattern that many people fail to recognize. When a sudden opportunity is about to manifest, confusion tries to cloud your focus. Small problems suddenly feel bigger. Notifications increase. Conversations arise out of nowhere. Fatigue becomes heavier than usual. You feel tempted to delay what you know you should do. This is not random. It is resistance. Whenever heaven prepares to release something significant, there is an attempt to interrupt your attention. The enemy does not always fight you with obvious obstacles. Sometimes he fights you with busyness. Sometimes he fights you with overthinking. Sometimes he fights you with emotional heaviness that makes you say, "I'll handle it tomorrow." But tomorrow is not the instruction. The instruction is clear. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. That means tonight matters. That means this hour carries weight. And if distraction wins, regret follows. Procrastination is one of the quietest destiny killers. It whispers, "You have time." It convinces you that urgency is unnecessary. It makes you comfortable at the edge of opportunity without stepping into it. But divine moments are not permanent fixtures. They are windows, and windows close. Many people look back on their lives not with anger at others, but with sorrow at themselves. They remember the prompting they ignored, the call they did not answer, the step they were too hesitant to take. and the pain of that memory is sharper than any temporary fear would have been. Emotional fatigue is another weapon used before elevation. You may feel unusually tired tonight. You may feel mentally drained. You may even question whether this message is truly important. That heaviness is not a sign to withdraw. It is often a sign that something valuable is near. Breakthrough attracts resistance. If nothing significant were attached to this night, there would be no battle over your focus. Some miss destiny moments not because they lack faith, but because they lack alertness. They love God. They pray. I believe. But they drift. They assume that what is meant for them will remain indefinitely. Yet Scripture and life both reveal that obedience is often time-sensitive. When instruction comes with timing, it demands response within that timing. March 15th is not just a date. It is a divine appointment. And appointments require showing up. Here is also the trap of doubt. Doubt will whisper, "What if this is nothing?" It will attempt to minimize the urgency. It will tell you that acting now might make you look foolish. But what if acting now is the very step that unlocks your next level? Fear of embarrassment has robbed many people of elevation. They chose safety over obedience, and safety kept them average. Hear this clearly. If you ignore this, you will cry for what could have been yours. Not because God delights in your tears, but because missed opportunity carries natural consequences. When heaven opens a door and you stand still, the loss is real. Imagine standing tomorrow with the realization that tonight held your answer. Imagine knowing you felt the prompting but chose distraction instead. That realization is heavy, and this message comes as mercy to prevent that weight. You must guard your focus tonight. Reduce unnecessary noise. Step away from conversations that drain you. Silence what does not serve this moment. If something in your spirit keeps nudging you to check, open, respond, or act, do not suppress it. Discern it carefully, yes, but do not bury it under comfort. Divine instructions are often gentle, but they are persistent. They return to your mind repeatedly because they matter. Here is also a deeper layer. Sometimes distraction comes disguised as urgency in the wrong direction. An argument suddenly demands your attention. A trivial task feels pressing. A random issue steals your emotional energy. Not everything urgent is important, and not everything important screams for attention. The opportunity coming tonight may arrive quietly. If your mind is scattered, you may overlook it. You were not brought to this message by accident. There are thousands of voices you could be listening to, but you are here. That means something. That means your spirit recognized a signal. And if your spirit recognized this, then you must protect this awareness. Do not let it fade the moment this part ends. Carry it with you into the evening. Let it sharpen your perception. Right now, make a decision. Decide that you will not allow distraction to steal what heaven prepared. Decide that comfort will not override obedience. Decide that hesitation will not define your story. This is a defining night, and defining nights require defining choices. And let me say this carefully. What is about to be revealed next will expose why this opportunity carries more weight than you currently realize. There is a layer to this that most people would never expect. Hold on. What comes next changes everything. Type "I will not miss IT" in the comments if this resonates with you. Lesson code 314 is now activated. As this revelation settles into your spirit, understand this. When you sow into this mission, you are not supporting a channel. You are fueling a harvest of awakened souls. Every super thanks, every membership, every PayPal seed becomes oil in the lamp that keeps this prophetic light burning through the night. The Lord says, as you water others, you yourself will be watered, and this is not poetry. It is a living promise spoken over you now. I feel led to say this clearly. When you give, you step into alignment with the very opportunity God is releasing tonight. This is your moment to turn revelation into action. The PayPal link is in the description, and the QR code may be flashing on your screen. Do not ignore the nudge. As you release your seed, may open heavens respond over your life with acceleration and favor. So now, activate the flow. There is a spiritual law that many overlook. Everything in God's kingdom operates by appointed times. Seeds have seasons. Doors have moments. Favor has windows. And when God attaches urgency to an instruction, it is never accidental. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. is not dramatic language. It is divine precision. It tells you that this opportunity is connected to timing, and timing is everything. Time-sensitive opportunities are not about pressure. They are about alignment. When heaven aligns circumstances, people, and preparation into a single moment, that moment becomes charged with possibility. But charged moments do not last forever. Just as a train arrives at a station and waits only briefly before moving on, divine opportunities pause, but they do not park permanently. If you hesitate too long on the platform of indecision, you will watch what was meant to carry you forward disappear into the distance. Midnight represents transition. It is the dividing line between what was and what will be. At 11:59 p.m., you are standing at the edge of closure. 1 minute later, the day shifts. The atmosphere shifts. The grace assigned to that specific date shifts. March 15th carries a particular spiritual authorization. When the clock turns, that authorization moves with it. This is why immediate response matters. It is not superstition. It is structure. God works within times and seasons, and wisdom recognizes when a season is about to change. Some people assume that if something is truly meant for them, it will remain indefinitely. But that belief misunderstands responsibility. Yes, what God has for you is yours, but possession still requires participation. Think of a harvest field ready for reaping. The crops belong to the farmer, but if he refuses to gather them at the right time, they spoil. Not because they were not his, but because he neglected the appointed moment. Opportunities are similar. Ownership does not eliminate urgency. Time-sensitive instructions also test obedience. When there is no deadline, commitment is easy to postpone. But when a boundary is set, your heart is revealed. Do you move when instructed, or do you delay until convenience feels safer? Tonight is revealing more than an opportunity. It is revealing your responsiveness. And responsiveness determines acceleration. There are blessings that unfold slowly over years. And then there are blessings that hinge on a single decision made in a narrow window. This feels like one of those moments. A pivot point. A hinge in your story. A small act of obedience that triggers a larger chain reaction. Often, the size of the action does not match the size of the outcome. What seems minor tonight may open something major tomorrow. The phrase "open" immediately suggests that something is already positioned. You are not being told to create the opportunity. You are being told to respond to it. That means preparation has already happened behind the scenes. God has arranged details you could not see. He has aligned factors you could not control. But alignment does not eliminate the need for agreement. Heaven sets the stage. You step into it. And consider this carefully. Delays can shift atmospheres. If you postpone obedience beyond its appointed time, you may still find another opportunity later, but it may not carry the same ease, the same grace. with the same favor. When timing is right, things flow. When timing is missed, things strain. The difference between ease and struggle is often a matter of minutes. You might feel the temptation to say, "I will handle it tomorrow morning." But tomorrow morning will not be March 15th. Tomorrow morning will not carry the same spiritual marking. Tomorrow morning may still hold blessings, but this specific instruction is tied to tonight. There is something about this date that had been set apart, and set-apart moments require set-apart focus. Why would God make something time-sensitive? Because urgency sharpens faith. It pushes you out of complacency. It forces clarity. When you know the clock is moving, you prioritize differently. You become intentional. You evaluate what truly matters. And in doing so, you step into maturity. Time-sensitive moments are often growth accelerators. This is not about fear of missing out. It is about reverence for divine timing. Fear paralyzes. Reverence mobilizes. Fear says, "What if I fail?" Reverence says, "I trust enough to move." The night calls for reverence. It calls for honoring the instruction attached to this moment. There are people who will treat tonight casually. They will move through the evening as if it is interchangeable with every other night. And for them, it will pass quietly. But for those who recognize the signal, who respond before 11:59 p.m., who take the instruction seriously, this night will mark a turning point. Years from now, they may look back and say, "Everything shifted on that date." You are standing at the edge of something precise. Not vague, not symbolic, precise. The clock is moving whether you acknowledge it or not. The only question is whether you will align your action with the time assigned to you. March 15th is not just another square on the calendar. It is a scheduled encounter. And before the minute hand crosses into midnight, something must be opened. Something must be answered. Something must be done. Timing is not your enemy tonight. It is your invitation. There is a truth that many avoid because it feels uncomfortable. Ignoring divine instruction carries consequences. Not because God is harsh, not because He is waiting to punish, but because every instruction He gives is connected to protection, promotion, or prevention. When you dismiss the instruction, you distance yourself from the outcome attached to it. And tonight, the instruction is clear. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. The clarity removes excuses. It places responsibility directly in your hands. Throughout life, people rarely regret the moments when they acted in faith. Even if the outcome was uncertain, they carry peace knowing they responded. But the deepest regrets come from hesitation, from silence when they should have spoken, from inaction when they felt the nudge, from delay when the timing was specific. The pain of what if lingers longer than the discomfort of obedience ever could. When God warns, it is mercy. A warning is not condemnation, it is compassion. It is heaven leaning close and saying, "Do not miss this." The statement, "If you ignore this, you will cry for what could have been yours," is not spoken to threaten you. It is spoken to awaken you. Years of regret are heavier than tears of effort. Regret carries the knowledge that you once stood at the doorway of change and chose not to enter. Some people assume that opportunities will circle back around if missed. Sometimes they do, but often in a different form, with different timing, and sometimes with greater difficulty. Ease attached to the original moment may not remain. There is a grace that accompanies obedience within the appointed window. When that window closes, the same result may require more struggle. This is why timing matters so deeply. Ignoring divine instruction also affects confidence. Each time you dismiss a prompting, it becomes easier to dismiss the next one. Sensitivity dull. Discernment weakens. The voice that once felt clear becomes faint. Not because God stopped speaking, but because a repeated delay trains your heart to deprioritize obedience. Tonight is not just about one opportunity. It is about strengthening your responsiveness for the future. There is also a spiritual principle of stewardship. When God entrusts you with a moment and you handle it carelessly, you demonstrate unreadiness for greater responsibility. Small instructions often precede larger assignments. If you treat tonight lightly, you may unknowingly postpone a greater elevation that was meant to follow. Faithfulness in the immediate unlocks expansion in the future. Consider the emotional weight of missed moments. People often replay them in their minds. I should have. I knew I felt something. Why didn't I act? Those thoughts echo because deep inside, they recognize the opportunity was real. That recognition stings. It lingers, and it reshapes how they view themselves. Missing a divine instruction can quietly erode your sense of courage. But hear this carefully. This message is not here to condemn you for past delays. It is here to prevent a new one. Whatever you may have missed before does not define tonight. March 15th stands in front of you as a fresh chance. A new door. A present tense decision. The warning exists because the opportunity is real. If there were nothing significant attached, there would be no urgency. Ignoring divine instruction often feels small in a moment. It may seem like a minor postponement, a harmless delay, but outcomes are not always proportionate to effort. A small delay can produce a large loss. A brief hesitation can shift the trajectory of months or years. And conversely, a simple act of obedience can unlock acceleration that surprises you. There is also a subtle deception that says, I will respond later when I feel more ready. But readiness is rarely a feeling. It is a decision. If you wait until fear disappears, you may wait forever. Courage is acting while uncertainty still exists. Obedience is moving even when clarity is partial. Tonight does not require perfect understanding. It requires willingness. The consequences of ignoring this moment are not always immediate. Sometimes the realization dawns slowly. You may not feel the impact at 12:01 a.m. But over time, as doors fail to open or progress feels delayed, you may trace it back to this night. And that is what makes the warning loving. It invites you to avoid that slow realization. God's desire is not for you to cry over lost potential. His desire is for you to step into possession. The instruction is not given to restrict you. It is given to release you. But release requires response. He opens the door. You turn the handle. He positions the opportunity. You embrace it. He sets the time. You honor it. March 15th is still within reach. The clock is still moving, but the window has not yet closed. You are not being reminded after the fact. You are being warned before the deadline. That is grace. That is mercy. That is love expressed through urgency. Tonight, you have a choice. To dismiss the prompt or to respect it. To postpone the action or to take it. To treat this as noise or to recognize it as signal. And what you choose will determine whether tomorrow carries quiet regret or powerful testimony. The consequences are real, but so is the opportunity. And as long as it is still before 11:59 p.m., the better outcome is still available to you. One of the greatest reasons people miss divine opportunities is because they expect them to arrive in a specific form. They imagine grandeur. They anticipate dramatic signs. They assume that when God moves, it will feel overwhelming and unmistakable. But often, The most life-changing opportunities arrive quietly, wrapped in simplicity. That is why discernment is critical tonight. A sudden opportunity is coming, but it may not look the way you expect. It may not appear as a public announcement. It may not come with applause. It may not even feel extraordinary at first glance. It could arrive as a simple message, a subtle idea, a reminder to check something you overlooked, a nudge to revisit a conversation, a thought that repeats itself with unusual persistence. Divine direction frequently whispers before it speaks loudly. If you are waiting for thunder, you may miss the whisper. Many people overlook blessings because they are packaged in humility. They dismiss them because they seem too small. But understand this: small doors can lead to large rooms. The size of the entrance does not determine the magnitude of what lies behind it. Tonight's opportunity may require you to respond to something that appears ordinary on the surface, but carries extraordinary consequence beneath. There is also the possibility that this opportunity challenges your comfort. Sometimes God's invitations stretch you. They require courage. They require stepping into unfamiliar territory. If it feels slightly intimidating yet deeply aligned in your spirit, do not reject it too quickly. Fear often stands at the threshold of growth. The presence of nervousness does not mean the absence of divine guidance. Discernment requires stillness. If your mind is noisy, you may misinterpret the signal. Take a moment tonight to quiet external distractions. Ask yourself what has been repeatedly pressing on your heart. What have you been sensing that you have not yet acted on? What instruction have you postponed? Sometimes the opportunity is not new. It is something already presented that you delayed acknowledging. And now the deadline approaches. It is also important to distinguish between fear and caution. Fear paralyzes. Caution evaluates. You are not being asked to act recklessly. You are being asked to respond attentively. Weigh what comes before you, but do not allow analysis to become avoidance. Overthinking has caused many to talk themselves out of divine timing. They analyze until urgency fades. They question until clarity dims. And by the time they reach a decision, the moment has passed. Another way opportunity hides is through responsibility. It may come disguised as a task rather than a reward. It may require effort instead of immediate gratification. But often, the path to promotion begins with responsibility. If something tonight requires your attention, your initiative, or your humility, do not assume it is beneath you. What feels like a small assignment could be the gateway to greater influence. Pay attention to everything. When a thought returns again and again, when you feel prompted multiple times to open, check, respond, or review something, that persistence may be intentional. Divine nudges are gentle but consistent. They do not disappear easily. They linger. They surface. They remain until acknowledged. There is also a temptation to seek confirmation from too many voices. While wise counsel has its place, excessive consultation can dilute urgency. If the instruction is time-sensitive, you may not have the luxury of extended debate. Sometimes obedience requires personal conviction. It requires trusting the inner witness that tells you, this is the moment. Be careful not to let pride block recognition. Pride says, if it were from God, it would look bigger. Pride expects prestige, but humility recognizes value even when it appears simple. The opportunity coming tonight may not impress others immediately. It may not even make sense to them. But your obedience is not dependent on their understanding. Ask yourself this: what feels unfinished? What feels like it requires closure before midnight? Is there something you have been avoiding opening? An email, a message, a document, a conversation, a decision. The instruction is direct. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. That specificity suggests that something already exists, waiting for your response. You are not being asked to create it. You are being asked to recognize it. Sometimes the form of opportunity also tests gratitude. If you have been asking for more, but tonight you are given a beginning, will you honor the beginning? Expansion often starts as seed, and seeds do not look like forests. They look small, almost insignificant, but contained within them is potential far beyond their appearance. This is why awareness is everything. You cannot afford to drift through this evening distracted. You cannot assume that if it is important, it will shout. It may not shout. It may whisper once more and wait. Recognition requires readiness. Readiness requires attention. And attention requires intention. Set your mind to be alert. Set your heart to be willing. Set your spirit to be sensitive. The opportunity is coming. Its form may surprise you. Its simplicity may test you. Its timing will challenge you. But if you recognize it for what it is, a divinely positioned moment, you will step into something far greater than the form it arrives in. Tonight, look beyond appearance. Listen beyond noise. And when the moment presents itself, do not hesitate to respond. There are certain days that feel ordinary on the surface but carry unusual weight in the spiritual realm. March 15th is not just another date passing quietly on the calendar. There is an atmosphere surrounding this day that feels charged, intentional, and appointed. When God marks a day, it is because something has ripened in the unseen. Preparations have been completed. Alignments have been finalized. Movements have been set into motion long before you became aware of them. The night carries that kind of atmosphere. The spiritual realm does not operate randomly. There are appointed times, appointed seasons, and appointed moments when what has been building beneath the surface finally emerges. March 15th feels like a release point, like a dam that has been holding back water now reaching its intended opening. The pressure you have felt in recent days may not have been stress. It may have been anticipation. Sometimes your spirit senses a shift before your mind understands it. Have you noticed anything unusual today? A heightened awareness, a subtle restlessness, a feeling that something is approaching. These sensations are not always emotional instability. Sometimes they are spiritual signals. When heaven moves, there is movement in the atmosphere. There is an invisible adjustment taking place around you. Doors that were resistant become flexible. Conversations that seemed unlikely become possible. Thoughts that felt confusing begin to clarify. March 15th carries a sense of divine orchestration. It is as if multiple pieces that have been scattered are suddenly aligning into a coherent picture. What once looked disconnected begins to make sense. You may start recognizing patterns. You may see how past delays were positioning you for this precise moment. Nothing you endured was wasted. Nothing you survived was meaningless. Every step has been guiding you here. There is also something about specific dates that creates spiritual focus. When God highlights a day, it draws your attention. It invites preparation. It invites expectation. Expectation is powerful because it opens perception. When you expect nothing, you notice nothing. But when you anticipate movement, you become alert. You begin to watch carefully, and that alertness positions you to respond quickly. Tonight, there is a sense that unseen assistance is active, not in a dramatic or theatrical way, but in a purposeful way. Circumstances are being adjusted. Timing is being synchronized. The opportunity mentioned earlier is not floating aimlessly. It is being escorted into your reach. That is why you feel the urgency tied to 11:59 p.m. The timing is precise because the orchestration is precise. Sometimes people underestimate how much preparation goes into a single breakthrough. What feels like a sudden moment often carries weeks, months, or even years of invisible alignment. March 15th may be the visible surface of a much deeper process. The reason it feels sudden is because you were not present during the hidden construction. But heaven was. And now the unveiling is close. You must also recognize that heightened atmosphere attracts opposition. Whenever something significant is about to manifest, resistance tries to thicken the air. Distractions increase. Doubts whisper louder. Unexpected interruptions appear. This is not coincidence. It is reaction. Something valuable is near, and resistance attempts to cloud clarity. But resistance does not cancel appointment. It only tests focus. The spiritual atmosphere tonight feels like a threshold, a crossing point, a dividing line between what has been and what is about to begin. Threshold moments are delicate. They require witness. They require courage. They require the willingness to step forward rather than backward. And March 15th feels like one of those rare hinge points in time. It is possible that years from now, you may look back and recognize this state as pivotal. Not because fireworks exploded, but because a decision was made. A response was given. An instruction was honored. Many life-changing moments feel small while they are happening. Only later do you understand their magnitude. There is also a sense that this day carries opportunity not just for advancement, but for correction. If something has been misaligned, tonight offers adjustment. If something has been delayed, tonight offers acceleration. If something has been unclear, tonight offers illumination. It is not merely about gaining something new. It may also be about stepping properly into what has already been prepared. The atmosphere of March 15th invites seriousness, not anxiety. It invites readiness, not fear. It invites reverence, not panic. You are not being pressured. You are being positioned. There is a difference. Vetergra is. Positioning elevates. And tonight feels like positioning. As the hours move closer to midnight, pay attention to what stirs within you. Notice what feels highlighted. Notice what feels urgent in a quiet way. Notice what keeps resurfacing in your thoughts. The spiritual atmosphere often amplifies what matters most. March 15th is not random. It is marked. It is layered. It is intentional. And as the evening unfolds, you are standing in the center of a carefully orchestrated moment. The opportunity is approaching within this atmosphere. The timing is narrowing. The alignment is active. All that remains is your response before the clock strikes midnight. There is something deeply symbolic about the final minute before midnight. At 11:59 p.m., you are standing on the edge of transition. 1 minute later, a day closes forever. It will never return. It will never repeat. March 15th will pass into history, and whatever was attached to it will either have been embraced or left behind. That is why this threshold matters. It is not just about time on a clock. It is about the closing of a divine window. Midnight represents separation. It divides yesterday from tomorrow. It marks the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. And when the instruction says, "Open immediately before 11:59 p.m., it means the blessing is tied to the closing of this chapter. There is something about responding before the shift that positions you differently after the shift. Obedience before midnight carries a grace that hesitation after midnight cannot replicate. Imagine standing at a doorway that is slowly closing. The gap is still wide enough to walk through, but it is narrowing. You can see what lies on the other side. You feel drawn toward it. Yet you hesitate, telling yourself there is still time. As the seconds pass, the space becomes smaller. The opportunity does not disappear instantly. It closes gradually. That is what this final stretch of March 15th feels like. The door is open, but it will not remain open indefinitely. Some people treat deadlines casually. They assume extensions will come. But divine deadlines are different. They are not designed to create stress. They are designed to create movement. When heaven sets a boundary, it is because the moment has reached completion. There is a fullness to tonight, a ripeness, and once something ripens fully, it must be harvested. If not, it begins to fade. The difference between faith and hesitation is often measured in seconds. Faith moves while uncertainty still lingers. Hesitation waits for total comfort. But total comfort rarely arrives before obedience. If you are waiting to feel completely fearless before you act, you may miss the minute assigned to you. Courage is stepping forward while your heart is still beating fast. As 11:59 p.m. approaches, emotions may intensify. You may feel urgency rise within you. You may feel the weight of decision pressing heavier. That is not meant to overwhelm you. It is meant to focus you. Focus sharpens action. When you know time is limited, distractions lose their power. Petty concerns fade. You become aware of what truly matters. There is also something profound about acting in the final minute. It demonstrates seriousness. It proves attentiveness. It shows that you value what has been entrusted to you. Responding before midnight is a declaration that you recognize the significance of the day. It is you saying, "I will not let this pass casually." But imagine the alternative. Imagine waking up on March 16th with the quiet realization that you did nothing. The clock struck midnight, and you let the opportunity drift away. That realization would not come with loud alarms. It would come with subtle heaviness, a lingering thought, a quiet sense that something was missed. That is the sorrow this message seeks to prevent. This midnight threshold is also a spiritual dividing line. It separates the obedient from the indifferent. It separates the alert from the distracted. It separates those who treat divine timing seriously from those who assume there will always be another chance. And while God is merciful, moments are not always repeated. You may not fully understand why this opportunity is tied to this specific minute. You may not see all the layers behind it. But you do not need complete understanding to practice obedience. Sometimes clarity follows action, not the other way around. When you step forward, revelation meets you there. As the seconds tick closer, ask yourself, what must be opened? What must be answered? What must be acknowledged? The instruction hath been consistent from the beginning. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. That repetition is intentional. It is meant to echo in your spirit until you respond. And hear this carefully. What happens in the final second may surprise you. There is often a release at the edge of obedience, a confirmation, a sense of peace that settles the moment you act. What feels heavy before you move becomes light after you do. What feels uncertain before obedience becomes clear afterward. You will be glad you positioned yourself for what is about to be revealed. Type "before midnight I move" in the comments if you are ready. Blessing code 1159 is now activated. As you stand at this midnight threshold, understand that your obedience tonight echoes beyond your own life. When you release a super thanks, join as a member, or so through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen. You are lighting torches for others who are still walking in darkness. Scripture declares that as you sow generously, you reap generously. And this is not theory. It is a living covenant being activated over you now. I sense strongly that some of you are called to seal this moment with a seed. This is not a transaction. It is a prophetic act. As you give, may doors open before you just as you stepped through this one. Do not delay the prompting. Sow into the harvest. Move now. Now the question becomes practical. What must you do immediately? On tomorrow morning. Not next week. Not when it feels more convenient. What must you do before 11:59 p.m. tonight? Because revelation without action produces nothing. A warning without response changes nothing. And an opportunity without movement remains only potential. First, you must become intentional about your remaining time tonight. Do not drift through these hours casually. Treat them as sacred. When something is sacred, you handle it differently. You guard it. You prioritize it. You remove what competes with it. That means turning down unnecessary noise. That means stepping away from distractions that dilute your focus. If something does not contribute to clarity, it should not control your attention in this final stretch. Second, revisit what hath been highlighted in your spirit since you began hearing this message. What keeps resurfacing in your thoughts? What have you felt repeatedly nudged to check, open, or respond to? The instruction has been consistent. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. That implies something is already positioned. Perhaps it is a message waiting in your inbox, a conversation you have delayed, a decision you have avoided finalizing, a document you need to review, a step you have hesitated to take. Do not complicate it. Often the simplest action is the correct one. Third, approach this moment with prayerful focus. You do not need long, complicated words. You need sincerity. Take a few minutes and quiet your heart. Ask for clarity. Ask for courage. Ask for confirmation. And listen. Sometimes clarity comes as peace. Sometimes it comes as urgency. Sometimes it comes as a thought that refuses to fade. Do not ignore what rises strongly within you during that quiet moment. Fourth, remove hesitation. Hesitation disguises itself as wisdom, but often it is fear wearing a thoughtful mask. Wisdom evaluates and then moves. Fear evaluates and then stalls. If you have already evaluated and you still feel the internal pull, then delay is no longer discernment. It is avoidance. And avoidance is what leads to regret. Fifth, act decisively. When you recognize what must be opened or responded to, do it immediately. Do not create another internal debate. Do not postpone it for later in the evening. There is something powerful about swift obedience. It sends a signal, not just spiritually, but internally, that you are serious. It builds momentum. Action creates clarity that thinking alone never can. Also understand this. Immediate action builds confidence. Every time you respond promptly to divine prompting, you strengthen your ability to hear and obey in the future. You train your spirit to move in alignment. Tonight is not just about one opportunity. It is about cultivating a lifestyle of responsiveness. There may be discomfort involved. The action may stretch you emotionally. It may require vulnerability. It may require courage. But growth always asks something of you. Comfort keeps you stationary. Courage moves you forward. If this opportunity is tied to your next level, then stepping into it will naturally feel different from what you are used to. Do not underestimate the power of simple obedience. Some breakthroughs are unlocked not by dramatic gestures, but by quiet, faithful responses. The world may never see what you do tonight. No applause may follow, but unseen shifts often produce visible results later. And let me speak directly to you in this moment. If this message hath been stirring your spirit from the beginning, do not let it fade into background noise. Engage with it. Declare your readiness. Like this video right now as a sign that you are choosing action over delay. Comment, "I act before midnight," as a public declaration that you will not allow this moment to slip away. Share this with someone who needs urgency in their spirit tonight. And if you have not yet subscribed, do so now and become part of a community that refuses to miss divine appointments. Your engagement is not routine interaction. It is alignment. It is you stepping into agreement with the timing of heaven. Now hear this carefully. There is something about the next step that you cannot yet see. The moment you act, something shifts. The atmosphere responds. You may not feel fireworks, but you will sense alignment. And alignment produces acceleration. The difference between testimony and regret is often one decision made in a narrow window of time. You are still within that window. The clock is moving, but it has not yet struck midnight. That means possibility is still alive. Do not overcomplicate this. Do not overanalyze it. Identify what must be open. Identify what must be answered. Identify what must be done. And do it before 11:59 p.m. Because what happens after you move may reveal why this night was never ordinary to begin with. There is a reward attached to swift obedience that cannot be replicated by delayed response. When you move quickly in alignment with divine timing, something shifts not only around you but within you. Peace replaces tension. Confidence replaces confusion. Clarity replaces chaos. Swift obedience carries its own confirmation. It is as if heaven whispers, "Yes, this is the way." The moment your foot steps forward. Many people focus heavily on the warning of missing an opportunity, but few consider the beauty of seizing one. When you act before 11:59 p.m., when you open what must be opened, when you respond without hesitation, you position yourself for acceleration. Acceleration does not always mean immediate visible results. Sometimes it means that invisible barriers are removed. It means resistance that once slowed you down quietly dissolves. It means momentum begins building beneath the surface. There is also a unique confidence that develops when you obey swiftly. Each time you respond without delay, you reinforce your trust in divine direction. You teach your heart that obedience is safe. You teach your mind that courage leads to growth. Over time, this creates spiritual maturity. Instead of second-guessing every prompting, you begin to recognize the rhythm of guidance. You become sensitive, responsive, aligned. Swift obedience often unlocks favor in unexpected ways. Doors that seemed firmly shut begin to loosen. Conversations that once felt strained become smoother. Opportunities that appeared distant come closer. You may not immediately connect these changes to your decision tonight, but obedience sets reactions into motion. One act of alignment can influence multiple outcomes. There is also restoration attached to obedience. If you have experienced delays in the past, moments you now wish you had handled differently, tonight offers redemption. Acting now does not erase yesterday, but it reshapes tomorrow. You are not trapped by previous hesitation. You are empowered by present action. Swift obedience writes a new pattern in your life. Consider how often breakthrough follows decisive movement. When you hesitate, uncertainty lingers. But when you move, even in faith, clarity often meets you mid-step. It is as if answers begin appearing once you demonstrate willingness. That is because action signals readiness. Readiness invites responsibility, and responsibility attracts increase. There is a powerful principle here. What you honor grows. When you honor divine timing, more moments of divine timing are entrusted to you. When you respect a narrow window, broader doors begin to open. God does not waste opportunities on those who treat them casually. He entrusts more to those who respond faithfully. You may also experience a surprising sense of relief after you act. The tension that built throughout the day may lift. The mental debate may quiet. The heaviness that tried to discourage you may fade. That relief is not random. It is the release that comes with alignment. You were created to move in harmony with divine timing. When you do, friction decreases. Swift obedience can also impact others. Your decision may influence people you cannot yet see. The opportunity you embrace may position you to help someone else. The door you walk through may create access for others to follow. What feels personal may carry communal impact. That is another reason urgency matters. Your response could ripple beyond your own life. And let us speak honestly, not every obedient act produces immediate celebration. Sometimes the reward unfolds gradually. But even when visible results take time, internal transformation begins instantly. You become stronger, more confident, more decisive. You start to view yourself differently, not as someone who hesitates, but as someone who moves. Acceleration does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it feels like subtle progress that compounds over time. A series of small advancements, a chain of positive developments. And one day, you look back and realize that everything began shifting from a single night when you chose obedience over delay. The reward of swift obedience is not limited to material outcomes. It includes peace of mind. It includes freedom from regret. It includes the quiet assurance that you did not let fear dictate your destiny. There is deep satisfaction in knowing you responded when it mattered most. If you act before 11:59 p.m., tomorrow may feel different. You may wake up with expectation rather than uncertainty. You may sense anticipation rather than doubt. That internal shift alone is powerful. It changes how you approach the next opportunity, the next instruction, the next door. Remember this: obedience is rarely convenient, but it is always fruitful. It may require courage in the moment, but it produces confidence in the future. And tonight, you have the chance to experience that reward firsthand. The clock is still moving. The window is still open. And the reward of swift obedience is waiting on the other side of your decision. Before this night closes, there is something else that must break. The spirit of regret. Regret is heavy. It lingers. It whispers reminders of missed chances and delayed responses. It replays old scenes in your mind and magnifies what could have been. And if you are not careful, regret can shape your identity. It can make you see yourself as someone who always arrives too late. Someone who hesitates. Someone who watches doors close instead of walking through them. But tonight, that pattern ends. The warning attached to this message was never meant to trap you in fear. It was meant to free you from future sorrow. If you ignore this, you will cry for what could have been yours. Those words are not a sentence. They are a rescue. They reveal the consequence so you can avoid it. They expose the danger so you can step around it. God does not reveal regret to shame you. He reveals it to prevent it. Some of you listening carry regret from previous seasons. You can remember specific nights when you felt prompted to act but chose comfort instead. You remember opportunities that slipped quietly away. And even now, Those memories surface from time to time. But hear this clearly. Past regret does not have authority over present obedience. What you do tonight has the power to rewrite the narrative. Regret feeds on hesitation. It grows stronger each time you delay. But it weakens the moment you decide to act differently. Breaking the spirit of regret begins with a declaration. I will not repeat the same pattern. It begins when you refuse to let fear dictate your decisions. It begins when you value obedience more than comfort. There is also a deeper truth. Regret often disguises itself as humility. You may tell yourself, I always miss it anyway, or I'm not the kind of person who gets these opportunities. But those thoughts are not humility, they are resignation. They train you to expect loss instead of victory. And it inhibits with Evin. If you expect to miss it, you may not even notice when it arrives. Tonight, you must reject that narrative. You are not destined to stand outside closed doors. You are not appointed for disappointment. If this message reached you before 11:59 p.m., it is evidence that grace is still active. You are being alerted in time. That alone should shift your confidence. This is not a replay of past mistakes. This is a fresh opportunity to respond correctly. Breaking regret also requires courage. Courage to forgive yourself for past delays. Courage to stop replaying old failures. Courage to believe that you can act differently now. If you cling to yesterday's mistakes, you will approach tonight timidly. But if you release them, you will approach tonight boldly. Speak to yourself differently in this moment. Instead of saying, what if I fail? Say, what if I step into something greater? Instead of saying, I always hesitate, say, tonight I move. Words matter. Internal declarations shape external behavior. When you declare readiness, your actions begin aligning with that declaration. There is also a spiritual authority in renouncing regret. You can make a firm decision right now that hesitation will not define your future. That delay will not dominate your story. That missed opportunities will not become your identity. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is recognizing that you were created to respond, not retreat. As the clock continues toward midnight, you are not just responding to an opportunity. You are confronting a pattern. If you move before 11:59 p.m., you are doing more than opening something external. You are breaking something internal. You are breaking the cycle of overthinking. You are breaking the habit of postponement. You are breaking the expectation of disappointment. And once that pattern breaks, something powerful replaces it. Confidence. Expectation. Instead of anticipating regret, you begin anticipating reward. Instead of fearing missed timing, you begin trusting your responsiveness. This shift changes how you approach every future opportunity. Imagine waking up tomorrow with no lingering questions. No, I should have. No, I wish I had. Just peace. Just clarity. Just the quiet confidence that you honored the moment given to you. That feeling is worth more than temporary comfort. That peace is priceless. Tonight is not about perfection. It is about decision. You do not need flawless execution. You need willingness. You do not need total certainty. You need courage. Breaking regret begins with one simple, decisive act before midnight. You are not too late. You are not disqualified. You are not doomed to repeat the past. The fact that you are hearing this now proves that opportunity still stands within reach. The spirit of regret loses its power the moment you choose obedience, and that choice is still available to you. This is the final moment of this message, and the clock is still moving. March 15th has carried weight from the very beginning of this word. A sudden opportunity is coming tonight. The instruction has been clear. The urgency has been consistent. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. And now, as we stand at the closing of this message, you are standing at the edge of decision. Let this be the final warning, but also the final assurance. If you ignore this, you will cry for what could have been yours. Not because God delights in withheld blessings, not because heaven enjoys watching you struggle, but because unclaimed opportunity produces natural sorrow. When something is placed within reach and left untouched, the realization of that loss is painful. This warning has echoed throughout every part for one reason: to prevent that pain. But now hear the assurance. God's desire is not for you to miss this. His desire is for you to step into it. He does not set deadlines to trap you. He sets them to focus you. He does not create urgency to frighten you. He creates it to awaken you. March 15th was marked because something hath been prepared. Something aligned. Something positioned specifically for you. You were not given this message after midnight. You were given it before. That alone is proof of mercy. That alone is evidence that heaven wants you ready, not regretful. There is still time. As long as the clock has not crossed 11:59 p.m., possibility remains alive. The door is not closed. The opportunity is not withdrawn. The instruction still stands. Open immediately before 11:59 p.m. Respond. Act. Move. And when you do, trust that heaven responds to obedience. Trust that what has been orchestrated in the unseen will begin to unfold in the visible. Trust that peace will replace pressure. Trust that clarity will follow courage. This is not about superstition. It is about sensitivity. It is about honoring divine timing. It is about recognizing that some days are different. Some nights are marked. Some minutes carry more weight than others. And tonight is one of them. If you have listened this far, it is because something in you recognize the seriousness of this word. Do not let that recognition fade now. Carry it into your action. Let it guide your decision. Let it shape what you do next. You are not powerless in this moment. You are positioned. You are not confused. You have been instructed. You are not late, you are aware. And awareness is a gift. Imagine crossing into midnight with peace instead of questions. Imagine waking up knowing you honored the instruction. Imagine sensing that something shifted because you responded when it mattered. That is the outcome available to you right now. God is not distant tonight. He is near. He is attentive. He is watching not to judge you, but to see whether you will trust Him enough to move. And when you move, you demonstrate faith. When you respond before the deadline, you demonstrate honor. When you open what must be opened, you demonstrate readiness. This message began with urgency, but it ends with hope. You are capable of obedience. You are capable of courage. You are capable of seizing this opportunity. March 15th will soon become yesterday. The question is whether it will become a memory of regret or a testimony of breakthrough. That decision rests in your hands for just a little longer. Let this be the night you responded. Let this be the night you acted. Let this be the night you refused to hesitate. Type "I choose obedience" in the comments if you are stepping forward now. Blessing code 3159 is now activated. As you seal this moment of obedience, understand that your response can echo far beyond your own life. When you give through Super Thanks, join as a member, or so through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, You are planting seeds that allow this prophetic message to reach souls standing at their own midnight threshold. The Lord declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And this promise is alive over every seed released in faith. I sense that for some of you, supporting this mission is part of your obedience tonight. This is not a donation. It is a divine alignment. As you sow, may doors open, may favor accelerate, and may provision overflow back into your life. Do not delay the prompting. Activate your seed. Step into the harvest now.